know this might be a very unpopular opinion, but Rob Zombie's Halloween is actually my favourite Halloween movie. So I'm going to review that later on this week. If you want to see that review, watch out for that. But this is my spoiler review for Halloween Ends. So I was lucky enough to be able to go see it early here in Australia. And I've got to say, this was my favourite movie in the trilogy for sure. The trilogy is not my favourite Halloween trilogy, or Halloween movie, but it's still definitely my favourite movie within this trilogy, and I had a good time watching this movie. I wasn't bored, but there was definitely room for improvement. So we basically open with this flashback of this kid Corey. So if you've heard anything about this movie, you probably know who Corey is. So Corey is our new main character. Basically, this movie is mainly about him. I think he's in it even more than Laurie is. So we see him babysitting this little kid, and he ends up accidentally killing the kid. But the whole town blames him. They think that he's the killer. He gets locked up for a while and then released. And basically everybody hates this kid. He gets bullied. His home life is awful. His mother is basically like the mother of Bates Motel. If you've ever seen that show about Norman Bates, it's like she's just this really creepy, hyper-controlling woman. So between his home life and all the bullying, you can sort of see how this kid would eventually just snap completely and go on a murderous rampage, which he does. Spoiler alert. So we see Laurie, and she has a really awkward flirtation going on with a police officer. Though I guess if you're Laurie Strode, then a police officer is probably a good choice of a romantic partner, because if you get attacked, he can just be there. So anyway, they have that going on. Laurie's bought a new house. She has a new attitude. She's basically a new woman at the start of this movie. She's trying to leave fear in the past and move on with her life. She's living with her granddaughter in a new house that isn't a death trap, and eventually we see her go into her old sort of ways of fear and PTSD. But at the start of this movie, she does feel like she has changed completely. So as I said, Corey has not got it easy, and he definitely doesn't get it any easier when he gets kidnapped by Michael Myers. So basically he's running away from the kids that bully him, and they throw him over a bridge and basically try to murder him because they think that he murdered the kid. And then Michael comes out of his sewage tunnel where he's been hiding. I swear, it's like just a thing in horror movies. Just don't go down into the sewers and you'll live. Anyway, so he kidnaps him. He takes Corey into the sewage tunnels. And then he tries to murder Corey, but then there's this weird moment that feels like it isn't really explained properly, where Michael looks into Corey's eyes, and it's like that he sees that he's a kindred spirit, and he knows that he's like him, or he has the potential to be like him, and he lets him go. And then basically Corey starts dating Laurie's granddaughter when Laurie introduces them. So it feels like that whole plot just really felt forced. Him just dating Laurie's granddaughter, it just felt really forced and not natural, and they had no chemistry, to be honest. So obviously we know by now that the theory going around the internet that Corey is going to become the killer is correct. Yes, he becomes the new Michael Myers, and well, basically he is Michael in this movie. He gets so much more screen time than Michael does. And just a really interesting thing, like the nature versus nurture. We see, like in the Rob Zombie movies, how young Michael was this kid who was bullied until he just reached a breaking point where he had a bad home life, a bad time at school, and he had no sort of, no place that he could feel safe. And it feels like they were going in that direction, but I feel like they did it a lot better in Rob Zombie's version. I'm just going to be honest. Anyway, so Corey starts his murderous rampage by killing a homeless man when he gets out of the sewage tunnel, and he had that weird moment with Michael where apparently he realized that he wants to be a killer now, and he kills the homeless man. And then Michael starts teaching him how to kill, because he goes up to Michael and says, "Teach me how to kill," and Michael becomes his murder sensei. I just kept thinking of Cobra Kai, of like the sensei and the karate, but with murder. I don't know. By now, he's dating Laurie's granddaughter, like I said. So they're together, and he starts killing her enemies. She's got this boss that she doesn't like, and like he could have just bought flowers, but instead of buying chocolates or flowers, say you love her with murder? I don't know. Anyway, so he goes around killing her enemies, and by then Laurie's figured out that this guy is evil, because apparently when you look into their eyes, you can tell. I don't know, there's something about the eyes apparently, because she says that she sees evil in his eyes just like Michael now. And obviously she's right, but yeah, anyway. So Laurie's figured out he's evil and says, "Break up with my granddaughter. I, of course, don't want you dating her anymore." And he says the most cliche line that all the psychos say: "If I can't have her, nobody can." So he says that a few times. Like, he suddenly goes from being this loving boyfriend to just snapping and being like, "Okay, if I can't have her, I'm going to kill her." And I just feel like this movie didn't transition between those sort of scenes enough. Like, we didn't get it fleshed out enough as to why he suddenly snapped. Like, we see, obviously, like I said, he was bullied and everything, but it still felt like it was a little bit rushed, and it didn't really flesh out the character enough, even though he got so much screen time. So by then, of course, Laurie's granddaughter breaks up with him. So he just goes and decides to completely go on a murderous rampage at this point, completely let go of any sort of reason for killing and just kill for the sake of killing. So he goes and takes Michael's mask, and we see Michael unmasked 2 times during this movie, and he's like, "Yeah, I can see you now. You're just an old man with a Halloween mask." And I thought that was really interesting, because it's like a theme of this movie that the mask is the spirit of Michael. Sorry, I'm really sick right now, so I'm probably sounding a bit strange today. But anyway, so the mask is the spirit of Michael Myers, so to speak. Like, it's not about Michael Myers, the man, so much as it is the chaos that he brings. So he has the mask now, and he starts killing his bullies, who, when they see him, you think like they would be relieved that they're not murderers, but instead they keep attacking him. And at this point, it's like, okay, teenagers in horror movies are often stupid, but these ones just take it to the next level. So of course he kills them, and there's this really interesting scene where somebody blames Laurie for being responsible for somebody she cares getting attacked by Michael, because she says, "You provoked a mentally ill man and brought him back out into the world." And it's like a cause and effect scenario. To a certain extent, it's true. If Laurie had just left him alone, a lot of people would not be dead, including her own daughter. And Michael didn't even remember her. Like, she spent so much of her life focused on this man coming back and finishing what he started. And it's like she built it up in her mind so much as being such an important part of Michael's life where she thinks that he's spending all this time thinking about her when in reality Michael doesn't even remember her probably, and it's like she's this girl in a relationship sort of that just can't let go. So then Laurie and Corey face off. Corey stabs himself in the neck, and I don't know if he's trying to set up Laurie to take the fall for it, the way he ended up getting blamed for the kid's murder. But then again, you wouldn't think people would be as upset over her killing somebody that was presumed to be a killer than he was to have killed a little boy, presumably. You know what I mean? But anyway, he decided to stab himself in the neck because he's insane. And then Michael comes along and kills Corey because you shouldn't mess with a man's mask. So not enough tension build up was really in this movie. I felt like Michael was barely in it until the third act, which would have been okay if there was all this tension and build up to this amazing finale. But it just felt a little bit anticlimactic to me. So we see Michael stabbing Laurie with a knitting needle when they have their face-off showdown final fight, and it's obviously in reference to the first movie, the original, when Laurie stabs Michael with a knitting needle. So anyway, Laurie and her granddaughter team up to unmask Michael, and as everybody knows, horror villains cannot be killed unless they have their mask off. So then Michael Myers finally dies, and the police parade his body through town to show the townsfolk that the boogeyman's dead. And then they put his body in a meat grinder. That is intense, but I get it. You want to make sure this guy's dead. Anyway, I feel like the bleak tone of the movie needed to be broken up a bit with some light-hearted moments because it would have made the more serious moments hit more. But the whole movie just felt very bleak in tone. And obviously it's a horror movie, but it just felt like it needed to lighten up at times. So I'm going to be honest, I would not say that this is a movie I'm going to personally rewatch. And I wouldn't say it's one of my favourite horror movies. I think, to be honest, I'm looking forward to seeing Barbarian with Bill Skarsgård in it next week more than this movie. But look, I had a good time. I wasn't bored during the movie. So it's not amazing, but it's not bad. It's just somewhere in the middle. So I would give it a 7.5 out of 10. So let me know what you think in the comments down below. If you want to see more from me, please consider subscribing, liking, commenting, all of that YouTube stuff. Thanks, guys.